So this is the one. He hops by, and as he hops by, the breeze makes the flag blow.
Because he's in an air environment. He's not on the moon.
Right. That is a weird one. Do it again. Look at this. As he hops by, he doesn't touch the flag.
Now, can I do devil's advocate? What do you call it? Steel what?
Steel man.
Okay, the reason why it's doing that, and really on the moon, is because there's micrometeorites hitting him, and they're bouncing off of him and hitting the flag.
What?
Is that a pretty good one?
Is that real?
No.
I thought they were trying that one.
I was trying to come up with an excuse.
Did the United States really land on the moon in 1969? While the Apollo 11 mission has long been hailed as one of NASA's greatest achievements, renewed scrutiny from recently surfaced footage is once again stirring debate. Today we're taking a closer look into the most enduring moon landing conspiracy theories, along with Bart Sibrel's controversial claims and the impact of his documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. The origins of moon landing skepticism. Skepticism about the Apollo 11 moon landing began almost as soon as the event took place. While millions watched the historic moment live on television, some viewers were unconvinced by what they saw. The idea that the landing may have been staged gained momentum in the 1970s, particularly after the release of Bill Kaysing's self-published book, We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion Swindle, in 1974. Kaysing, a former technical writer at Rocketdyne, argued that NASA lacked the technology to safely land a man on the moon and return. Kaysing's claims were wide-ranging, from suggesting that radiation from the Van Allen belts would have killed the astronauts to the belief that the footage was shot on a soundstage. Though lacking scientific support, his theories resonated with those who distrusted government agencies after the Vietnam War and Watergate. He wrote, quote, "I believe that the American public has been hoodwinked in the most colossal and disgraceful way ever." His views sparked a subculture of conspiracy, laying the foundation for others who would continue to question NASA's narrative. The rise of the internet in the 90s amplified these doubts. Message boards and amateur video analyses became hotbeds of speculation. Theories evolved and adapted, pulling in viewers with each new supposed discovery. Even decades later, a 2019 Ipsos poll revealed that 10% of Americans still believed the moon landings were fake. Bart Sibrel and the push for proof.
Now, what this footage is, and I have an unedited reel of like an hour to an hour and a half of virtually the same shot over and over again. They're claiming that this is a little blue Earth, halfway to the moon looking back, when in fact, this is a circular window of the spacecraft, outside of which is the Earth and low Earth orbit.
One of the most vocal and persistent figures in moon landing conspiracy movements is Bart Sibrel, a filmmaker and self-described investigative journalist. His 2001 documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, reignited public debate by suggesting that Apollo footage was filmed on Earth under artificial lighting. Sibrel focuses heavily on perceived inconsistencies in NASA's video and photography, claiming that shadows fall in impossible directions and that the American flag appears to flutter in a breeze, even in a vacuum. In the film, Sibrel narrates, "The truth is the moon landings were staged, the astronauts were actors, and the set was created on Earth." His presentation includes old NASA footage, slow-motion analysis, and interviews with individuals who express doubt. One of his most contentious claims is that the original Apollo 11 video transmission was deliberately poor in quality to hide evidence of forgery. He argues that if higher resolution footage had been available, the deception would have been more obvious.
We have all the private conversations, the outtakes of the mistakes, and the CIA telling them not to talk until 4 seconds go by to create a fake radio delay as if they're halfway to the moon, when in fact they're in Earth orbit. So here they are discussing the fact that this is not live, as we were led to believe, but actually edited, prearranged special effect.
Roger, Neil. We just wanted a narrative such that we can, when we get to playback, we can sort of correlate what we were seeing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that playback remark doesn't appear in any NASA footage, any DVD about the moon landings. It's only in this presentation.
Sibrel's most infamous moment came not on screen, but in person. In 2002, he confronted Buzz Aldrin with accusations of fraud, demanding that the astronaut swear on a Bible that he had walked on the moon. Aldrin, then 72 years old, punched Sibrel in the face during the exchange. The moment was captured on video and widely circulated. Sibrel later commented, quote, "I don't blame him for hitting me. I was out of line, but I still believe he didn't go." Aldrin was not charged, and many felt his reaction was justified. Sibrel remains a polarizing figure. To his supporters, he's a truth-teller demanding accountability. To critics, he's an opportunist exploiting public doubt. Photographic and film anomalies. One of the most commonly cited areas of suspicion involves the photographs and video footage taken on the moon. Conspiracy theorists argue that several visual elements appear inconsistent with what one would expect in a lunar environment. Shadows, for instance, have been the subject of intense scrutiny. In many Apollo 11 images, shadows appear to fall in multiple directions, which some claim could only occur under artificial lighting. Bill Kaysing once said, quote, "If the sun is the only source of light, then all shadows should be parallel. They're not." Another point of contention is the visibility of objects in the shadows. In several photos, equipment and astronauts in shaded areas are still clearly visible. Skeptics argue that without an atmosphere to scatter light, these regions should be pitch black. NASA, however, has explained that light reflects off the lunar surface, which can illuminate otherwise dark areas. Still, conspiracy theorists claim this is more consistent with the kind of fill lighting used on film sets. Astronaut Charlie Duke, who went to the moon, shed some light on the reasons for the specific lighting and why you don't see stars in the footage from the moon.
Well, it's not true because the sun's shining. You're on the moon and the brightness of the lunar surface is really overwhelming. So you had two sun visors on, and the sun is shining all the time when you're on the moon. You get to the moon and you go behind the moon, and the night on the moon, you look out and you can see the stars. But if it's day on the moon,
right,
and you're standing there, you look up and it's black because there's no atmosphere. But it's the sun shining, so you can't see the stars.
The American flag, seen planted on the moon, is another popular example. In video footage, it appears to ripple, despite the moon having no atmosphere. NASA has stated the flag had a horizontal rod running across the top to keep it unfurled, and the movement seen was caused by the astronauts twisting the pole during setup. That explanation hasn't satisfied doubters like Bart Sibrel, who says in his film, quote, "That flag is waving, and the only way it could wave is if there's wind, and there's no wind on the moon." The absence of stars in the sky is often pointed to as yet another inconsistency. While Earth's night sky is filled with stars, none are visible in Apollo images. NASA attributes this to the exposure settings used to capture the bright lunar surface and the astronauts, which would have rendered faint stars invisible. Technical doubts and the Van Allen belts. Another recurring claim centers on the Van Allen radiation belts, two layers of charged particles trapped by Earth's magnetic field. Conspiracy theorists argue that passing through these belts would have exposed astronauts to fatal doses of radiation. Bart Sibrel and others insist that this single detail makes the entire moon landing impossible. In A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, he claims, quote, "They couldn't even leave Earth's orbit. The radiation would have cooked them alive." NASA's response has remained consistent over the decades. They've said the Apollo spacecraft passed through the belts quickly, minimizing exposure. According to space physicist Dr. James Van Allen himself, for whom the belts were named, quote, "The radiation exposure in the Van Allen belts was non-lethal and posed no significant hazard to astronauts. NASA calculated the dose the astronauts would receive and determined it to be well within acceptable limits." The role of Stanley Kubrick in the conspiracy. One of the most bizarre yet popular claims in moon landing conspiracy circles is the alleged involvement of film director Stanley Kubrick. The theory suggests that Kubrick, fresh off the success of 2001: A Space Odyssey, was hired by NASA to direct the fake moon landing footage. The idea hinges on Kubrick's mastery of special effects and set design, which some claim was ahead of its time. In particular, conspiracy theorists point to his use of front-screen projection in 2001, which they believe mirrors the look of the Apollo footage. Fueling the belief are cryptic interpretations of his later work. His 1980 film The Shining has been dissected frame by frame by those convinced it's a secret confession. The most cited example is a scene where character Danny wears a sweater featuring the Apollo 11 rocket. In one shot, he stands up from a patterned carpet that some say resembles NASA's launch pad. Bart Sibrel, among others, has called The Shining Kubrick's coded apology. In 2015, a viral video falsely claimed to show a deathbed confession from Kubrick in which he admits to filming the moon landing. The video was later revealed to be a hoax using an actor. Missing tapes and NASA's admissions. One of the most confusing developments was from NASA itself. In 2006, it was revealed that the agency had lost the original, high-quality telemetry tapes of the Apollo 11 landing. The admission shocked many and reignited suspicion. According to NASA engineer Richard Nafsker, quote, "The original tapes were erased and reused. It was standard practice at the time." While he insists the footage was preserved through broadcast copies, the loss of the originals gave conspiracy theorists new ammunition. Now it's time to hear from you. What's the wildest conspiracy theory you believe? Let us know in the comments section below.